Look at the world map. Most people see a collection of borders, colorful shapes, and names of nations. But if you look closer, you're looking at a high-stakes poker game where the cards were dealt millions of years ago. We often ask, why is the United States so wealthy? Why does Africa, a continent teeming with gold and diamonds, struggle with poverty? Is China's rise inevitable, or is it hitting a wall? We search for answers in politics, leadership, or technology, but we're ignoring the most fundamental force on Earth. It's a factor that decides which nation thrives and which stays trapped in a cycle of instability. It isn't an ideology, it isn't intelligence, and it isn't even luck. It's the ground beneath your feet. It's the rivers, the mountains, the deserts, and the oceans you didn't choose, but were born into. This is the hidden power of geography, and it has been deciding the fate of civilizations for thousands of years. Imagine history as a massive, real-time strategy game. You don't get to pick your units or your tech tree until you see your starting location. If you're spawned in a frozen wasteland, you're already at a disadvantage. If you're in a lush river valley protected by mountains, you've hit the jackpot. Thousands of years ago, as humans migrated out of East Africa, they eventually settled in 6 specific cradles of civilization. These weren't random choices. These people found the golden ticket of geography: the Olmecs in Mexico, the Norte in Peru, the Nile Valley in Egypt, Mesopotamia in Iraq, the Indus Valley in India and Pakistan, and the Yellow River in China. What did these places have in common? 4 essential pillars: fresh water for survival, fertile land for consistent food production, natural protection to keep invaders at bay, natural transport, haul, to move goods and ideas. If your geography provides these, your society flourishes. If it doesn't, you spend all your energy just trying to survive the next week. Take ancient Egypt as the ultimate example. Why did they build the pyramids while other tribes were still struggling to find their next meal? Because the Nile River was a geographic cheat code. First, the Nile was the most predictable river in the world. It flooded like clockwork, depositing nutrient-rich silt that turned the desert into a breadbasket. This meant Egypt could feed millions with minimal effort. Second, the Nile was a natural liquid highway. Because of the way the winds blew and the water flowed, boats could drift north with the current and sail south with the wind. They had a zero-emission, high-speed transport system 3,000 years ago. Finally, Egypt was surrounded by a moat of death, the Sahara Desert. For any army to invade, they had to march through hundreds of miles of scorching sand. Most didn't make it. With food, transport, and security guaranteed by the land, Egypt enjoyed a level of stability that lasted 3,300 years. That is the power of geography. As centuries passed, the world's population exploded. From 200 million people at the start of the Common Era to over 8 billion today, the competition for space became fierce. Europe became a permanent battlefield of shifting borders. China saw dynasties rise and fall in bloody cycles. Africa was carved up by colonial powers who didn't understand the land they were stealing. By the 20th century, technology, trains, planes, and nuclear weapons seemed to make geography irrelevant. You could fly over a mountain or nukes could cross an ocean. But ironically, technology only made the best geography more valuable. After 1945, borders mostly froze. In this new, globalized system, the countries with the strongest geographic foundations didn't just grow, they dominated. And no one won this lottery bigger than the United States. There's a reason people ask if America is over, and there's a reason they're usually wrong. It's because the US sits on the most valuable piece of real estate on the planet. This isn't about patriotism, it's about geology. When the last ice age ended, melting glaciers carved out deep water harbors along the North American coast. While Europe has a few good ports, the US East Coast is a literal greatest hits of maritime trade. Boston, New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Charleston. These deep ports allow massive ships to dock right at the edge of the land, making global trade incredibly cheap and efficient. But the real treasure isn't the coast, it's the center. The Mississippi River Basin is the single greatest geographic advantage in human history. It's not just one river, it's a massive network of navigable waterways that stretches into the heart of the continent. It allows farmers in the Midwest to put their grain on a barge and send it all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, and from there to the entire world at a fraction of the cost it takes to move goods by truck or train. This is why the Louisiana Purchase of 1803 was the greatest real estate deal in history. Thomas Jefferson bought the Mississippi Basin for roughly $340 million in today's money. Today, that land is worth at least $60 trillion. You can't innovate your way out of that kind of head start. Now look at the challengers. China looks powerful on a map, but its geography is a constant source of anxiety. China is essentially boxed in. It has access to only one ocean, and that access is partially blocked by a first island chain of neighbors: Japan, Taiwan, the Philippines, and Vietnam. About 80% of China's oil passes through the narrow Strait of Malacca. If a rival navy decided to block that tiny strip of water, the Chinese economy would be paralyzed within weeks. This is why China is spending billions on the Belt and Road Initiative, building highways through Pakistan and railroads through Central Asia. They are desperately trying to escape their geographic prison. Then there's Russia. It's the largest country on Earth, yet it faces a geographic nightmare. Its western border is a flat, open plain with no natural barriers. That's why Napoleon in 1812 and Hitler in 1941 were able to march almost all the way to Moscow. Furthermore, Russia lacks warm water ports. Most of its ports freeze in the winter, making year-round global trade impossible. Russia's aggression in Crimea and its involvement in Syria are largely driven by one thing: a desperate need for a port that doesn't turn into an ice cube. What about Africa? It is a continent overflowing with gold, cobalt, and oil. By all accounts, it should be the world's superpower. But here, geography acts as a curse. Most of Africa's great rivers, like the Congo, look impressive on a map, but they are nearly useless for trade. Why? Because as they approach the coast, they drop off in massive waterfalls and rapids. You cannot sail a ship from the interior of Africa to the ocean. Additionally, Africa's coastline is smooth. While a smooth coast looks nice, it's a disaster for sailors. Europe and North America have jagged coasts with natural bays that protect ships from storms. Africa lacks these natural harbors, making it incredibly expensive to build ports. Without easy shipping and navigable rivers, Africa has been forced to rely on expensive overland transport, which has stunted economic growth for centuries. When you view the world through the lens of geography, the chaos of the news cycle begins to make sense. It all boils down to three simple questions that decide a nation's fate. Can you feed your people? Do you have fertile land? Can you protect your borders? Do you have mountains, deserts, or oceans? Can you trade with the world? Do you have navigable rivers and deep ports? The United States is currently the only nation that can answer yes to all three without hesitation. Its two oceans, the Atlantic and the Pacific, act as massive liquid shields. The Atlantic keeps Europe 4,000 miles away, and the Pacific puts 6,000 miles between the US and Asia. Invading America isn't just a military challenge, it's a geographic impossibility. Geography sets the starting point. It determines the difficulty setting of the game. It doesn't mean a country with bad geography can't succeed. Look at the miracle of Singapore. But it means they have to work 10 times harder than a country that started with a gold mine. The mountains, the rivers, and the plains are silently writing the history of our future. Governments change, leaders fall, and technologies evolve. But the ground remains the same. Geography is the silent architect of power. And until we find a way to move mountains or drain oceans, it will continue to decide who leads the world and who is left behind. If you found this breakdown insightful, make sure to hit that like button and share this video with someone who thinks politics is the only thing that matters. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the forces that shape our world. Thanks for watching.